Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have another great show headed your way. First, the surgeon accused of stalking and burglary prior to shooting his ex-wife and her husband in Ohio. Kohberger faces potential transfer because he's such a pain in the ass. Brendan Banfield takes the stand in the double murder trial. A Utah mom is arrested in Croatia after abducting children over doomsday fears. Idaho prison escapee receives 2 consecutive life sentences for a double murder. A tragic shooting claims the life of a 15-year-old honor student. A Colorado man charged with murder after dismembering his girlfriend's body discovered under the bed. We've got this day in legal history, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't. Like if you do. Leave me a comment below. Hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, before we get started, let me remind you to do a couple of things. We have our big Monday to Monday giveaway. That's right. Anyone who purchased merch from Monday through next Monday, through February 2nd there. If you order anything, you are in a random drawing and we will send the winner $100. So get your merch today. Also, we have updated our Amazon storefront, so go check that out. And let me also remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com, where you can sign up for a background subscription service today. When you do, you'll be able to do as many background searches on anyone here in the United States that you need to. All right. Anyone coming into your life, you should check them out. You're going to find out about their social media presence. See what they're posting about. Are they going to be that responsible person that they say they are? Or is it going to be, new person in your life gone wild? Phone numbers, email addresses. You're going to find out about criminal history, divorce, married, liens, judgment, criminal history. Everything you want to know, go to crimetalksearch.com. You're going to be happy that you did. All right, let's go ahead and open the record for Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. And first on the docket, that's right, the surgeon and the Ohio double murder. The surgeon that has been accused of stalking his ex-wife and burglarizing the home she shared with her current husband in the weeks leading up to their fatal shooting, according to recently released court documents. Now, Michael McKee, a 39-year-old vascular surgeon, faces 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary in connection with the December 30th, 2025 deaths of his former wife, Monique Tepe, and her husband, Spencer Tepe. Now, the couple was discovered deceased in their residence in the Wineland Park neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio, from gunshot wounds. Monique with a wound to the chest and Spencer with multiple wounds as well. Their 2 young children, aged 1 and 4, were present in the home and were not harmed, fortunately. Now, McKee, who was arrested in Chicago following a manhunt and extradited ultimately back to Ohio, has entered a plea of not guilty to all charges. Now, police have described the incident as a targeted attack linked to domestic violence. Well, these newly released details that we're talking about came from the probable cause affidavit that indicate that investigators identified McKee through surveillance footage showing him outside the Tepe residence on December 6th of 2025, approximately 3 weeks before the homicide. Now, at that time, the couple was attending the Big Ten championship game in Indiana with friends. Now, witnesses reported that Monique Tepe returned to her hotel room early during the event, visibly distressed over matters concerning McKee. The affidavit further alleges that McKee entered the home while the occupants were absent and remained for several hours before departing. He was reportedly observed in a silver SUV equipped with a sticker displaying a stolen Ohio Ohio license plate. Now, the vehicle registration records connected the SUV to addresses previously associated with McKee and a hospital where he had been employed. Additional evidence includes the absence of activity on McKee's cellular phone from late December 29th until afternoon on December 30th, aligning with the estimated time of the shooting shortly before 4 a.m. on December 30th. Now, there were also found a 9mm shell casing that were recovered at the scene. Now, court documents also detail prior allegations of abuse conveyed by Monique Tepe to friends and family, and she reportedly disclosed incidents of strangulation and non-consensual sexual acts by McKee during and after their marriage, which lasted from 2015 until their divorce in 2017, and the grounds for the divorce were incompatibility. Now, one witness stated that McKee had threatened Monique, asserting that he could kill her at any time and that he would always be able to locate her and that she would, quote, always be his wife, end quote. Another account indicated he claimed he could purchase a neighboring property to maintain proximity, and the couple's bodies were found after concerned colleagues and friends noting Spencer Tepe's uncharacteristic absence from the dental practice, prompting a welfare check and a call to 911. Police ruled out murder-suicide early in the investigation. Now, McKee remains in custody without bond as the case proceeds there in Franklin County. So that's going to be an interesting one. You know, this guy apparently was stalking the curtilage of the house, the outside of the house. And, what can you say? Just weird and creepy behavior. Now, maybe he had some legitimate reason to go there and talk to her, but why not pick up the phone, call his ex-wife if he really had a need to speak with her? But it seems like things were kind of spiraling out of control for the old Dr. McKee there. And you would think a vascular surgeon could probably make a pretty good living and probably get himself a girlfriend, a new wife. But no. Something's weird. Just goes to show you, ladies and gentlemen, it can happen to anybody from any economic status whatsoever. And the McKee, the Tepe family, obviously a tragedy all around. Now those two kids, they're orphaned. They're orphaned because allegedly this Dr. McKee killed their parents. We'll give him the presumption of innocence, but we'll see how that evidence plays out in the future. Next, Bryan Kohberger may get exactly what he wants because he's being a pain in the ass. So Bryan Kohberger, obviously the former criminology graduate student convicted of the 2022 stabbing deaths of the 4 University of Idaho students, is reportedly the subject of efforts by Idaho correctional authorities to transfer him to a facility in another state. Now, sources, and take this with a grain of salt, indicate that the Idaho Department of Corrections is actively pursuing this option due to ongoing challenges associated with his incarceration at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution near Kuna. Now, Kohberger, as you know, pled guilty back on July 2nd to 4 counts of first-degree murder as part of an agreement that spared him the death penalty. Now, he was subsequently sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Now, the attacks that took place back on November 13th of 2022 involved multiple stab wounds, with reports indicating over 150 in stab wounds and across all of the victims. Now, a knife sheath obviously was left at the scene, provided DNA evidence, and the investigators linked to Kohberger through investigative genetic genealogy. Now, since his transfer to the maximum security facility back in July, Kohberger has been housed in solitary confinement within the restrictive housing unit known as the SHU. They're in the J block. Now, this arrangement implemented for his protection limits him to 23 hours per day in his cell, with 1 hour allocated for exercise and no direct contact with other inmates. Now, despite these measures, reports indicate that nearby inmates have engaged in verbal harassment, including shouting through ventilation systems, prompting Kohberger to file multiple formal complaints shortly after his arrival there at the facility. Now, within his first few weeks, Kohberger submitted at least 5 grievances addressing issues such as perceived verbal and sexual threats from other inmates, the quality and type of his food, including specific complaints about the bananas, access to community items, and overall living conditions. In one instance, he requested a transfer to protective custody or a different prison section and housing placement hearing back in mid-August that resulted in the decision to maintain his segregated status. Additional reports note that he later threatened self-harm if he wasn't relocated away from the source of the alleged harassment. Now, according to these sources familiar with the situation, like I said, we'll take that with a little bit of grain of salt. Prison staff have grown increasingly frustrated with the volume and nature of these complaints. The demands require significant administrative time and resources in an already understaffed environment where maintaining restrictive housing for high-profile or vulnerable inmates incurs additional operation costs. Now, this frustration has reportedly contributed to the Idaho Department of Corrections' decision to pursue a transfer under the Interstate Corrections Compact, an agreement among participating states that facilitates the relocation of inmates for safety, administrative, or any other reason. Idaho officials have reportedly contacted multiple states to gauge interest in accepting Kohberger, and while no destination has been confirmed, precedent exists, such as Indiana's transfer of a high-profile inmate to Oklahoma under the similar compact provision. A transfer could potentially occur in the coming weeks or months, though acceptance by another state remains uncertain. Now, Kohberger's notoriety, obviously if approved, would likely be informed only on the day of the transport, with notification to his family residing in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Now, they've also had some recent developments, include the temporary online release of nearly 3,000 crime scene images by the Idaho State Police, some depicting the interior of the residence, and investigative documentation such as footprints in the snow outside the home. The residence itself has since been demolished, and police have not publicly commented on the reported transfer efforts of the Idaho Department of Corrections. Now, Kohberger's ongoing incarceration reflects the complexities of managing high-profile offenders in restrictive settings, right? I guess so, but not really. Little word of advice here, Idaho. You get more of what you tolerate. Okay, let him write his complaints every single day, but as soon as you give him exactly what he wants, he wins. And I guarantee you're going to have every other inmate begin complaining about everything under the sun, including the food. And since it worked for Bryan Kohberger, they're going to think, why wouldn't it apply to them? Don't give in, Idaho. Don't give in. Unbelievable. You know, I remember in the military, if they had somebody that was not a great Marine, you could either be like, nope, we're going to transfer him out of here, get him, we don't want to deal with him, it's a waste of time and energy or effort. But some of the leaders would be like, no, this is a leadership challenge, and you need to square away this young lad and make him into a good Marine. It would seem like somebody in Idaho would be able to say, Mr. Kohberger, you are in the care and custody of the Idaho Department of Corrections. You're going to be with us for a long, long time. And guess what? We make the rules around here. The inmates don't run the institution. We do. So sit down, shut up, and unless you have a legitimate complaint, don't waste your time because it will be denied. Next, Brandon Banfield takes the stand in his double murder trial. That's right, the double murder trial of Brendan Banfield, a former Internal Revenue Service officer accused of fatally stabbing his wife, Christine Banfield, and shooting a stranger by the name of Joseph Ryan in their home back in February of 2023, resumed on day 8 following a 2-day delay caused by the severe winter storm. Now, Banfield, who has pled not guilty to all charges, began testifying in his own defense, while prosecutors continued to present digital evidence aimed at undermining the defense's narrative. Now, the prosecutors alleged that Banfield orchestrated an elaborate scheme to eliminate his wife so he could pursue a relationship with the family's au pair. According to the prosecution, Banfield and the au pair, who pled guilty to manslaughter in Ryan's death as part of a plea agreement back in late 2024, created a fake profile on the fetish website FetLife under Christine Banfield's name to lure Ryan to the home under the pretext of fulfilling a consensual sexual fantasy. Ryan was then killed and the scene staged to appear as though he had attacked Christine, prompting Banfield to shoot him in self-defense. Now, Banfield maintains that his wife had independently arranged for Ryan to visit the bedroom of a BDSM-related encounter on the morning of February 24th, back in 2023, and that he arrived too late to intervene in the fatal assault on her. During his testimony, Banfield described his close relationship with his young daughter, stating that he communicates with her daily via video chat and phone. He detailed his involvement in her early education, including working on mathematics skills starting at age 2 and engaging in ongoing projects and puzzles. He portrayed his marriage to Christine as harmonious and inseparable. The couple met as freshmen back at Quinnipiac University in Connecticut when he was just 18, later relocating to Virginia following his IRS promotion. They shared vacations, played games such as board games, and kickball, and raised 2 huskies before having their own daughter. Now, Christine worked as an intensive care unit nurse and served for years as a sexual assault examiner. Now, the prosecution has focused heavily on digital forensics to support this theory. And digital forensic expert Harry Litsky testified extensively, including on prior days and resuming on day 8 under questioning from defense attorney John Carroll. Now, Litsky analyzed device activity, IP address, timestamps, and account interactions to demonstrate the continuity in usage patterns. Now, evidence showed that on January 17th, a selfie of Christine taken at a fitness center around 7 p.m. was downloaded from her Facebook, cropped, emailed to the suspect Gmail account, and uploaded to that profile, all while activity occurred on Christine's phone, such as WhatsApp messages about their daughter's day. They also have contemporaneous activity across Christina's Facebook, the suspect Gmail, and the FetLife accounts occurring within seconds or minutes with no significant breaks, indicating device misappropriation. Now, the FetLife activity aligns with times when Christine was actively using her device for other purposes, such as searching for her family vacation resorts, with seamless transitions between her laptop and the phone. Now, there was no activity on the FetLife or related Telegram accounts occurring during periods when Banfield and the au pair were out of state, undermining claims that Christine independently maintained the profile. And then on February 23rd of 2023, the night before the killing, Christine's laptop showed searches for Dominican resorts until nearly 11 p.m., followed by a continuation on her phone, coinciding with a password reset on the FetLife account and the Netflix app usage on the au pair's devices. Now, the prosecution emphasized that these patterns reflect a single user, Christine, rather than an unauthorized access, and highlighted non-native English phrasing in messages consistent with the au pair's speech patterns. And then on February 13th, 2023, when FetLife messages were sent from Christine's device, Banfield's phones were located in Maryland near a federal training center supported by EZ-Pass records. Now, the trial, which has included graphic details and technical testimony, carries an advisory note that some content may disturb, our viewers. Proceedings include multiple breaks, including a lunch recess, and the testimony is expected to continue. Now, the case remains ongoing, with Banfield's testimony potentially influencing the jury's consideration of intent and perhaps a lesser charge if convicted of aggravated murder, which will result in life without the possibility of parole. Oh, the plot thickens, ladies and gentlemen. Next, a Utah mom arrested for taking her kids to Croatia. That's right, a Utah mom accused of abducting her 4 young children and fleeing to Europe amid apocalyptic beliefs has been arrested in Croatia. Alicia Ann Seymour was taken into custody in Croatia on January 16th, according to the Salt Lake County District Attorney's Office. Now, the arrest occurred nearly 2 months after she repeatedly departed from Salt Lake International Airport on November 29th with her children, Landon Hal Seymour, who's 11, Levi Parker Seymour, that's 8, Hazel Ray Seymour, 7, and Jacob Kurt Brady, who's only 3. without notifying their fathers or obtaining the necessary custody permissions. Now, Seymour faces 4 counts of custodial interference involving the removal of a child from the state, each classified as a third-degree felony in Utah. And these charges stem from her alleged violation of existing custody arrangements by transporting the children internationally on a one-way flight to Amsterdam, followed by her travel to Croatia. Now, authorities indicate that Seymour's actions were motivated by convictions related to impending global catastrophe, as evidenced by content she shared on private social media accounts discussing end-time scenarios. Prior to her departure, she reportedly prepared a concerning list outlining preparations for such an event. Now, the children, along with a fifth American minor who accompanied them, was another adult, were subsequently placed in a state-operated children's home in Croatia following Seymour's detention. Now, Kendall Seymour, the father of 3 of the children and holder of power of attorney of the 4th, has traveled to Croatia to facilitate their return. In updates posted on a fundraising campaign, he described the children as currently under local government custody and outlined the complex legal steps required, including engaging specialized Croatian attorneys, filing applications under the Hague Convention on the civil aspects of international child abduction, securing certified translators, and potentially extending their stay indefinitely. The process has proven quite challenging, as Croatian authorities must verify guardianship documentation and related circumstances before releasing the minors. Kendall Seymour has also noted the presence of the additional child in the same facility, emphasizing the need for further legal support in that case due to its distinct complexities. Now, no timeline has been provided on Seymour's potential extradition to the United States for upcoming court proceedings back in Utah. The district attorney has indicated that it is coordinating with federal partners to pursue extradition options. Now, family members continue efforts to reunite the children with their legal guardians while addressing the logistical repercussions of this particular incident. I don't understand why it is, ladies and gentlemen. If the world's coming to an end, why is it always the world's coming to an end doomsday people always decide to go break the law or do something totally crazy? If the world's coming to an end, does it really matter where you are located? I don't think so. And guess what? All those doomsdayers have always been wrong. I haven't heard a single person ever get that right. And when they say today's the day it's all going to end and it doesn't happen, they come up with some other reason why they should extend the date. Tell me why anyone would believe that. Next on the docket, an Idaho escapee receives 2 consecutive life sentences. So in a significant development in a high-profile criminal case of Skylar Mead, an Idaho inmate associated with the Aryan Knights white supremacist gang, has been sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in prison for the first-degree murders of 2 men during a violent crime spree following his 2024 prison escape. Now, the sentence occurred on Tuesday afternoon of this week for the killing of 83-year-old James Money and Julieta, a 72-year-old Gerald Don Henderson, both of Idaho. Now, Mead entered an Alford plea under which he did not admit guilt, but acknowledged sufficient evidence for conviction of the 2 counts of first-degree murder as a part of an agreement with prosecutors that eliminated the possibility of the death penalty. An Alford plea. Oh, I'm not saying I did. I'm not saying I didn't, but I'm willing to accept responsibility for it. Really? It's treated as a guilty plea. Bottom line. It's semantics, ladies and gentlemen. It's a guilty plea. He pled guilty, once again, to avoid the death penalty. The irony of it is the people that had the least amount of compassion for human life suddenly get really emotional when it's their life that's going to be taken away. Funny how that works out, isn't it? Anyway, the crime stemmed from a dramatic escape back in 2024. Mead, who had been incarcerated since 2016 on charges including aggravated battery of a law enforcement officer with a firearm enhancement, orchestrated his release from custody during a hospital visit in Boise. He had inflicted self-harm by cutting his face, necessitating medical attention. And while being transported back to the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, Nicholas Umfenauer A fellow inmate and acquaintance from prior incarcerations opened fire on correctional guards in an ambush. The two men then fled a waiting getaway vehicle, initiating a 36-hour statewide crime spree. During their flight, Meade and Umfenauer fatally shot Monty and Henderson in separate incidents in north-central Idaho. Authorities apprehended the pair the following day in Twin Falls, Idaho. Meade had previously received a life sentence for offenses related to the prison escape and associated aggravating factors. Both he and his co-defendant, who share ties to the Aryan Knights gang, agreed to the plea deals to avoid capital punishment. His co-defendant is set for sentencing on February 10th. Now, the prosecutor and the court officials have emphasized the finality of the life sentence imposed, ensuring the defendant will remain incarcerated for the remainder of their upcoming life, assuming they don't escape. Next, a tragic shooting claims the life of a 15-year-old honor student. Let's go to Northwood, Ohio. A promising 15-year-old honor student lost her life in a fatal shooting at an apartment on January 23rd, prompting police to charge an 18-year-old local resident with reckless homicide. Simone Ray Moore, a sophomore at the Woodmore High School, was pronounced dead at the scene after sustaining a gunshot wound later that evening. Responding officers from the Lake Township Police Department discovered her injured upon arrival, according to the arrest affidavits. Now, Jacob Heidzelman, 18, of Northwood, was arrested and charged with one count of reckless homicide. The police chief there stated that 4 individuals were present in the apartment at the time of the incident: Heidzelman's girlfriend, and another male. Heidzelman reportedly told investigators that the firearm discharged accidentally while he was cleaning it. Heidzelman was arraigned on Monday, where a judge set a bond at $75,000 and mandated electronic monitoring should he be released from custody. Jail records previously indicate a bond amount of $85,000. Now, Moore aspired to be a nurse and looked forward to obtaining her driver's permit soon. She's survived by her mother, Brittany Taylor, sisters Red, or Laura Lee, and Charlotte, brothers Vincent and Emmanuel, and extended family. Her father, Jay Moore, passed away prior to this tragedy. Sad, sad case. Next, Colorado man charged with murder after dismembering his girlfriend's body and then discovered her under the bed. So in Frisco, Colorado, which is, just up the road, right as you come out of the Eisenhower tunnel right there at the Continental Divide, and you get down there by Keystone Resort. Well, that's Frisco there. Anyway, police have charged 19-year-old Luis Antonio Mendez Hernandez with multiple counts of murder and tampering with a deceased human body in connection with the death of his 20-year-old girlfriend, Griselda Amarias Lopez Rancon, the mother of their infant child. Now, Frisco Police Department officers responded to a report of a medical emergency at a residence shortly after midnight on December 29th. Upon arrival, first responders located the body of an adult female, subsequently identified by the Summit County Coroner's Office as Ms. Lopez. The circumstances at the scene prompted officers to secure a search warrant and detain Mr. Mendez later that day. Now, court documents include a probable cause affidavit. They were unsealed recently, and they detail the discovery of Miss Lopez's dismembered remains concealed in a white trash bag and placed under the bed in the bedroom shared by the couple. Now, 2 female residents of the home reported observing what appeared to be a person under the bed, leading to the grim findings. Now, witness accounts indicate that Lopez and Mendez argued, and they ended their relationship on the evening of December 27th. One resident stated that Lopez had not been seen since that night. The following morning, on December 29th, Mendez was observed with visible scratch marks on his neck and chest. Forensic evidence recovered from the residence include a blood-covered 6-inch steak knife in a bedroom closet and pillows bearing blood-stained patterns consistent with having been pressed against an individual's face. Additional findings encompassed blood residue in the bathroom sink and bathtub, and according to the reports, a roommate received an unusual text message from Mendez on the night of December 28th, in which he asserted that Lopez was suicidal When questioned about her location, he declined to provide further details. And in a post-Miranda interview with detectives, Mr. Menendez claimed he returned home from work around 11 p.m. on December 27th, showered, and joined Lopez in bed while she slept. He stated that he awoke at approximately 3 a.m. to feed their crying child, then returned to bed and discovered that she was cold and deceased. He attributed his failure to contact emergency services to shock and concern over being implicated. He further suggested that Lopez may have taken her own life due to alleged harassment from another individual. So Mendez described the scratches on his body as self-inflicted and refused to address potential injuries sustained by Lopez. Instead of reporting the deaths, he stated that he wrapped the body in a blanket, concealed it under the bed, and conducted online searches regarding body disposal. Anyway, Mr. Menendez faces charges of first-degree murder after deliberation, first-degree murder with extreme indifference, second-degree murder, and tampering with a deceased human body. Currently being held in custody on a $5 million bond. His next scheduled court appearance has not been publicly set just yet. But prior court records indicate that Mendez was involved in a separate case back in November of 2025 involving allegations of assault and child abuse in which Lopez was named as the victim and that a restraining order had been issued against him. That's right. She committed suicide, and so I decided to dismember her and put her under the bed, because that's what normal people do, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I'm not saying we won't give him the presumption of innocence, which he is entitled to, but I think his attorney and he are going to have some discussions as to that just doesn't seem very plausible now, does it? Next on the docket, this day in legal history, January 28, 1915, Congress enacted legislation establishing the modern United States Coast Guard by merging the Revenue Cutter Service and the Life Saving Service. Anyway, that milestone created a unified maritime agency responsible for law enforcement, search and rescue, and national security functions at sea. How about a quote of the day? How about a quote on proportionality? The notion that the punishment should fit the crime is inherently a concept tied to the penological goal of retribution. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, right? Punishment needs to fit the crime. Next, our dumb criminal of the day. Can you believe our dumb criminal of the day is a U.S. District Court judge? Ouch! Yes, U.S. District Court Judge Thomas L. Ludington, a 72-year-old federal jurist serving in Michigan's Eastern District, has been charged with operating a vehicle while intoxicated under the state's, quote, super drunk statute after a single vehicle crash last fall. Now, the incident occurred back on October 3rd at approximately 7:10 p.m. when the judge's black Cadillac struck two traffic signs on a curved portion of the East Mitchell Road near Perry Lane in Spring Valley Township, roughly 10 miles east of Petoskey. The collision rendered the vehicle inoperable and caused the airbag to deploy, according to the police. Police classified the judge as super drunk under Michigan's law, which applies when a driver's blood alcohol level reaches 0.170 or higher, more than twice the standard legal limit of 0.08. Now, this designation carries enhanced penalties for even a first offense, including a potential jail term of up to 180 days, a 1-year driver's license suspension, and fines. The precise BAC for the good judge has not been publicly released, but the Michigan State Police that arrested the judge at the scene, he was released after posting a $500 bond and entered a not guilty plea during his arraignment. A status conference is held for February 9th at 1:30 in the 90th District Court in the Emmett County, with a jury trial set for February 27th. Now, despite the pending misdemeanor charges, the good judge has continued to preside over federal cases in the Eastern District of Michigan, where he has served since his nomination under President George W. Bush and his confirmation was back in 2006. Prior to his federal appointment, he served as a judge in the state court from 1995 to 2006. Now, court officials have not disclosed whether the good judge informed the chief U.S. district judge of the arrest or any administrative actions that have taken place. And the judge is one of approximately 18 active federal judges in the Eastern District, primarily handling cases from the Northern Division. What can you say, ladies and gentlemen? The good judge is our dumb criminal of the day. And I'm telling you, he should have known better. Imagine all the people he's probably sentenced in when he was a state court judge on alcohol-related type offenses. Probably not so much in the U.S. District Court, because usually it's a bigger deal when you go to U.S. District Court. You kind of swung for the fences, so to speak, and you hit a home run to get there. But when you're held to a higher standard as a judge like that, you would think that he'd probably want to do the honorable thing, which is assuming he's guilty, because we'll give him the presumption of innocence like everybody. Even our dumb criminals get the presumption of innocence, particularly U.S. District Court judge. But you think that they'd maybe want to resign or potentially face impeachment, which is usually why judges get in trouble for something like that. Certainly not judge conduct. Wouldn't you agree? All right, everybody, that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining the show. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.